Florence is the emblem of the Italian Renaissance, the Quattrocento. This extraordinary city owes its rise to the colossal fortunes of the merchant dynasties like the Medicis, that attracted the greatest artists and geniuses of the time, such as Michelangelo, Brunelleschi, or Leonardo da Vinci. Since the Middle Ages, Florence has always been the town of craftsmen, whose quality is today recognized the world over. We propose to show you their talents and their skill. For above and beyond the museums and monuments, they are the real treasures of the Tuscan capital. From the upper part of the town, we can see one of the oldest bridges in Europe, the Ponte Vecchio. Its origins go back to the 1st century AD. We see it today just as it was in the 15th century. When you cross it, you go back in time to when the town belonged to the Medici. Florence was then a thriving medieval town thanks to its river, the Arno, a vital thoroughfare for the town's merchants. They set up their workshops and their businesses on the bridges. Only the Ponte Vecchio has kept its buildings. The 15th century marks the end of the medieval period and the beginning of the Renaissance in Italy. It's embodied by one family, the Medicis, and by one man, Lorenzo the Magnificent. A very wise patron of the arts, as well as a poet and political strategist, he reigned for less than 30 years, but transformed the town into a masterpiece by attracting the great artists and architects of the time. The Medicis ruled over Florence for more than 200 years. The streets still bear their imprint, and the Ponte Vecchio is no exception. An ochre-colored building constructed over a series of arcades runs the length of the bridge. Within the first floor, there's a secret passage, the Bizzarri corridor. Built in 1565, it crosses the Ponte Vecchio and continues for a kilometer into the town. The Medicis used it to get safely from their palace, the Palazzo Pitti, to the town hall, the Palazzo Vecchio, because their main fear was of being attacked. In 1593, Ferdinand I, bothered by the smells from the butchers' and fishmongers' stalls set up on the bridge, decreed that only noble activities like those of jewelers and goldsmiths would be allowed. It was this decision that led to Florentine craftwork being granted its letters of nobility. This know-how was to spread throughout the world. In response to the growing demand of the bankers and rich merchant families whose palaces lined the banks of the Arno, the town's craftsmen worked in leather, precious stones, silks, and brocade. They invented luxury goods, and Florence became their capital. This is the ancient Franciscan monastery of Santa Croce. The district has been renowned for centuries for its leatherwork. The adjacent buildings house the Scuola del Cuoio, or the Leather School. It's a place that's full of history. For over 50 years, under the benevolent gaze of the Franciscans, the Gori family has carried on the work initiated by the founders of the monastery to spread Italian luxury goods across the world. Marcello Gori was chosen because of his great skill. Today, his daughters carry on the family tradition. The eldest, Laura, tells us the story of the Scuola del Cuoio.
special place used to be the dormitory of the Franciscan friars. It's a work of art by Michelangelo and a donation to the Franciscans in the middle of the 15th century from Cosimo de' Medici. This beautiful place has been abandoned for over a century, and at the end of World War II, the Franciscans decided to ask my family to join them in this project of training the orphans of World War II into this way of working leather, so in the original, traditional way of working leather.
The perfect dexterity of the movements, repeated 1,000 times by the masters, are handed down to the next generation.
What you see is made by the master craftsmen, helped by the younger artisans whom we select among the best of our students. This is Francesco. Francesco has studied in our school for 2 years. My father gave him a scholarship, and he's from Florence, and he's been working in our workshop for 9 years now. And he's also gilding leather, so decorating leather with real gold leaf, such as 22-karat gold leaf. In this case, he's personalizing with gold initials a customer purchases. We don't take people from outside. We enroll people who have learned in our school. So they have what in Italy is called la nostra mano, la nostra manualità.
Laura Gori can be proud of the work accomplished by her family. The leather bags, handmade in these workshops, are all unique items. They're all initially thought up and designed by Laura's sister, Francesca, the artist of the family.
So Francesca is keeping the tradition alive, not only, but she has given this input for creativity. Each bag is really thought of, so she can start from a jewel and then build the handbag all around the jewel. Or she can start from colors that she finds, like in the deer skin or the ostrich skin, and then work on the color. So you see, Francesca's handbags are all one of a kind. Okay, we go downstairs on the ground floor where the workshop is and the school is, where the stables of the church.
Laura takes us into the school proper, a real nursery of talents from the world over.
They study between 3 hours in the morning and 3 hours in the afternoon. So it's a full immersion, 6 hours a day. It's quite a long time. And there's nothing written on books. They really learn how to cut, how to edge, how to put things together.
There's no place for theory here. They put their talents into practice. Lessons and practical work complement each other. In just a few weeks, the apprentices must perfect their skills.
They start making small items, and then, little by little, they moved into handbags. We have them use inexpensive leather, so they can waste as much as they need, because it's never for sale what the students make. This is very important for you to know. Huh?
In recent years, the school has taken on more and more pupils from Asia, the biggest outlet for Italian luxury goods. For all that, the Gori family has never succumbed to the temptation of mass marketing.
Very many times, my father was asked to start branding. But you see, he never accepted, although maybe the name Gori would have been easy to brand. Scuola del Cuoio is a bit difficult. But my father thought that the mission was keeping the crafts, the leather art craft alive. So what we train are not leather manufacturers that will deal with top technology. We are training leather artisans.
It's this same responsibility of passing on the know-how inherited from the Renaissance that inspires the craftsmen of Florence. On the other side of the Franciscan monastery lies the famous square of the Santa Croce Basilica. The building of this elegant green and white marble building began in the 13th century. But the church wasn't finished until 600 years later. It celebrates the triumph of the cross, which is represented on the tympanum by this magnificent sculpture of Giovanni Dupré, a 19th century neoclassical artist. The Santa Croce Basilica is a jewel box. Behind its doors lies the city's Pantheon. Indeed, many illustrious people rest here, among them Machiavelli and Michelangelo. To the left of the facade in pride of place is the statue of Dante, another Florentine who has gone down in history. He's famous for having written in the 14th century the Divine Comedy, the masterpiece of Italian literature at the start of the Renaissance. It's the story of a journey through hell, purgatory, and paradise. But it was his description of hell that was to leave its mark. At the end of his life, Dante was banished from Florence for his involvement with the supporters of the Pope. He died in poverty of malaria in 1321. Magnificent buildings in the typical Tuscan style surround the Santa Croce square. Wooden shutters and facades in shades of ochre. The Palazzo dell'Antella overlooks the southern part of the square. Over the centuries, this immense palace has seen the increasing prosperity of the greatest families of Florence. Its facade is adorned with splendid frescoes dating from the 17th century. The paintings are masterpieces of grotesque art, which is characterized by the representations of fantasy images like demons and nymphs from Roman mythology. The town's wealthy merchants took their inspiration from frescoes decorating the ancient palace of Nero. At the town's center is the sumptuous Piazza della Signoria. Today we can see it just as it was when it was built between the 13th and 14th centuries. It's a perfect example of the Italian Renaissance style. The equestrian statue in the middle of the square represents Cosimo I of Medici, who reigned in the 16th century. When he became the first Grand Duke of Tuscany, he attracted the greatest artists of his time. From its very beginning, the square became the seat of the Florentine Republic. The imposing Palazzo Vecchio, with its brick tower rising to a height of 94 meters, is the symbol of its power. It was built at the beginning of the 14th century. We see on its facade the coats of arms of the different factions in power. The keys represent the Pope's party, while the lily is the emblem of the town. On the pediment, a medal with the monogram of Christ flanked by 2 lions on a background of fleur-de-lis is the emblem of Cosimo I of Medici. But admired most of all are the statues. They are reproductions of pure masterpieces of the Renaissance. On the right is the statue of Hercules striking down Cacus, the fire-breathing giant who terrorized ancient Rome. The sculpture is the work of Baccio Bandinelli, the great rival of Michelangelo. It was this genius of the Italian Renaissance who sculpted the statue on the left, the world-famous David. Michelangelo was then at the peak of his art and was the greatest artist of his time. And of course, he was a Florentine. In the middle of the 16th century, the city was a nursery of talent. The Loggia dei Lanzi is one of its extraordinary jewels. All these masterpieces tell us stories taken from Greek mythology. This bronze statue by Benvenuto Cellini represents Perseus with the head of the Medusa. The sculpture of the Rape of the Sabine Women is the work of a French artist, Jean Boulogne, alias Giambologna. He also produced Hercules defeating the centaur, which was sculpted from a single block of marble. All these objects are of incredible beauty, and visitors don't know what to photograph next. The Loggia dei Lanzi housed the People's Assembly, where all the grand ceremonies took place. In front, the 2 Medici lions prowl as if they were guarding the entrance. This item dates from ancient Rome. There's an obvious parallel with the powerful family that dominated Florence. It displayed its power through the arts. And Neptune's fountain is a perfect example. It's the work of Bartolomeo Ammannati, a contemporary of Michelangelo. Yet another Florentine artist at the service of Cosimo I of Medici. The Carrara marble Neptune that dominates the fountain bears a strong resemblance to him. The god of the oceans contemplates his subjects. The cherubs above the shellfish-shaped edging and the graceful nymphs with the horn of plenty. To accompany them, satyrs, joyful imps with goats' horns, revelers, and Dionysian characters. For the people of Florence, the Renaissance is also the occasion to rediscover their history and Florence's glorious past. Indeed, the people of the town love fantastic stories. Mythological creatures, and magic secrets jealously guarded by sorcerers and alchemists. Wandering through the back streets of the historic center, lovers of the unusual always end up outside this shop, whose name must have been predestined, Bizzarri. In the window, there are test tubes full of colored powders, glass jars with strange labels. We are without any doubt at an apothecary's. Behind this counter, since 1842, the Bizzarri family has specialized in the trade of the perfect little chemist. In the Middle Ages, apothecaries sold spices and medicines. But with the new pictorial techniques developed under the Renaissance, they specialized in the sale of the raw materials needed for the creation of frescoes and paintings. Behind the strange names like dragon's blood, green malachite, or Florescina sodica, are concealed the pigments used to dye marble or the oils for varnishing violins. Some of these products are highly toxic. The apothecaries were the forerunners of modern pharmacists. At Bizzarri's, they still concoct medicinal potions and unguents for the sick, but also preparations for students at the School of Fine Arts. During the Renaissance, these formulae were kept secret by the artists, who were always locked in relentless competition. To help them, the first chemists, the alchemists, tried to outdo each other's intelligence to discover the best formulae that would give them a technical advantage. Florence and its mysteries have always inspired artists. It's a wonderful fairy tale world of princesses and frogs that turn into princes. Welcome to Gianpiero Alcozer's. This Italian goldsmith of French origin has chosen Florence to set up his little workshop that resembles Aladdin's cave. The boxes in front of him are bursting with pearls, crystals, and semi-precious stones picked up from all over the world.
To start with, it's taken 20 years of my life to buy all this. There are stones that I bought at the very start that I've never used. From time to time, I come across one and I say, hey, I've got that one. I remember, for example, oh yes, I've got that. It's a little bit of bone that I bought maybe 10 years ago, and I've never used it. There it is, and perhaps one day I'll invent something with it. For now, it's there, and it'll wait.
For hours, Gianpiero Alcozer devises beautiful jewels that are all unique pieces. All are handmade by goldsmiths using ancestral skills. Indeed, the city has been renowned for its jewelers since the Middle Ages. They create works of religious art, precious jewels, wonderfully refined sets of luxurious gems. Today, Gianpiero is carrying on the tradition with highly imaginative jewels. This enthusiast is bursting with creativity, and his work has become a quest for the absolute.
What pushes me to continue is that I haven't yet created the finest jewel. I'm looking for the finest jewel. I'm looking to create that finest jewel that perhaps I will never make.
If the wonderful world of Gianpiero Alcozer is so successful, it's because this artist knows how to awaken the child's soul within us. The Santa Maria Novella district lies in the eastern part of the town. It's the intellectual heart of the Italian Renaissance. The geometrical motifs of the magnificent white marble basilica, decorated with black bands, are in the purest Florentine style. Giovanni Rucellai, one of Cosimo I of Medici's ministers, wished to embellish the church's facade. He called upon the famous architect Leone Battista Alberti. Alberti used the recent discoveries in mathematics and geometry to create a perfectly proportioned work. The facade of the Santa Maria Novella Basilica is the symbol of the triumph of the spirit and absolute knowledge of the great thinkers of the age. The marble niches, surmounted by Gothic pointed arches, cap noblemen's tombs built into the thickness of the walls. This is the resting place of members of the great Florentine families and the educated monks who taught in the Dominican monastery. At the beginning of the 14th century, it became a university and the center of the city's intellectual life. Lawyers, philosophers, artists, and preachers, all mingling and arguing with each other. Among their students, illustrious characters like Dante, who came here to study poetry. One of Florence's enduring traits has been its ability to maintain its tradition of fine crafts, as evidenced by little workshops like this one. They're known as Bottegas. Hundreds of leatherworkers still hand-make high-quality Italian fashion artifacts. Functional objects like these traditional leather purses known as tacco fiorentino, first made some centuries ago. Or these boxes, known as cuoietto, made from a single piece of leather. At the back of the shop, one will always find the small family workshop. This is Gianluca Lucchi's workshop. He is about to let us in on secrets that have been guarded for generations.
To make this beautiful gold edging, as you figure, it's very, I can assure you, absolutely very difficult. If you mistake this, there is only one place, trash. You cannot reuse it. The tool we have is this one. The tool has to be very comfortable. As you see, handle, and here that goes over. Because when you work with the box, you need the flexibility. Very difficult. You need to have many, many years of experience. This is the most difficult part. This is smaller than this one. Okay, let's do here.
You have to get the action just right, so as not to ruin this ribbon of pure 24-karat gold. Gianluca is also very proud of his Florentine purses.
I have to tell you what it is now. Italiano, portamonete, pormonnaie, coin purse. It's absolutely fantastic item. This is something that you can pass in generation. Grandfather, father, and so the nephew. Squeeze here. They will remain in all this vasque. You put in the front pocket. It's anatomical. It's super comfortable. Voila, tacco fiorentino.
Here in Florence, like everywhere else, craftsmen face increased competition due to globalization and the rise of Asia. A long and arduous battle that they're not ready to give up.
In Florence, it's not just my family, obviously, but there are many other manufacturers, still artisan work, no massive production.
Thanks to craftsmen like Gianluca Lucchi, working tirelessly at his bench, Florence is more than just an open-air museum. The green hill behind the fortified tower of the Bargello Museum is home to the Oltrarno quarter. Its walls date from the late Middle Ages, when the city stretched as far as the south bank of the river Arno. This waterway was the nerve center of the city, and trade flourished because of it. These sumptuous dwellings surrounded by cypress trees are evidence of the city's wealth at that time. Olive groves show us that the beautiful Tuscan countryside is not far away. The Oltrarno quarter has yet to be discovered by the majority of tourists, and has retained all of its charm. The labyrinth of narrow suburban streets is a delightful place to wander around and admire the beautiful and perfectly preserved old houses. On the corner of one street, we find a fountain with a strange face. It's another example of grotesque art. A little further on, this palace with its richly decorated facade. It's covered in paintings of otherworldly figures, gargoyles and monsters. It's the work of the artist Bernardino Poccetti, who specialized in decorating the facades of princely palaces. This one was built by Francesco I of Medici for his mistress Bianca Capello. When he was widowed, he made her his second wife and granted her the title of Grand Duchess of Tuscany. Nothing was too ostentatious for the Florentine prince's burning passion. But Bianca Capello wanted an even more sumptuous environment. So she left and moved into the Palazzo Pitti, the biggest palace in the city. It had originally belonged to the ambitious Florentine banker Luca Pitti. A century earlier, he had installed Cosimo I, father to Francesco I, as the leader of the Republic of Florence. Bianca Capello came to a tragic end. The Duchess of Tuscany was the object of her brother-in-law, the future Ferdinand I's hostility. He invited the princely couple to what turned out to be their last supper. Their deaths remained a mystery for many years. It was not until over 400 years later that a team of researchers found that they were the victims of arsenic poisoning. In the Oltrarno quarter, we find a discreet but remarkable place. Within this little courtyard, these ochre buildings house Florence's oldest silk weaving workshop. The initials ASF stand for Antico Settificio Fiorentino. Since 1786, the company has used the finest silk to make the most beautiful brocades, some of which have been used for hundreds of years to decorate cushions, sofas, and windows belonging to the royal courts of Europe. To help keep it alive, this silk manufacturer received a few years ago the support of a patron, Stefano Ricci. For the famous fashion designer, this was an obvious choice, as Settificio's workshops were a vital part of the history of fashion and the home of the first mass-produced silk shirts. Their passionate artistic director, Maurizio Bonas, takes up the tale.
Look at this fabric. It's been made for the last 500 years. It's the oldest variety of taffeta. It's not a taffeta, it's a mizzino. It was the first taffeta made anywhere in the world.
The first fabrics made by Settificio were used to make shirts. During the Renaissance, silk was for the first time used in a mechanical process, which became a model for the textile industry.
The silk came to Venice from Samarkand. The Doge of Venice sent it to the Medici family in Florence, where they had already been weaving wool for many years. They knew how to dye it, too. And so they did the same thing with silk. They found a way to stretch it evenly, and then everyone came to Florence to buy silk, and that's what made the Medicis so wealthy.
This innovation allowed Florentine craftsmen to work silk on their looms. This silk thread from the reels is wound by hand round a wooden frame. This is a relatively new machine dating from the 19th century. It turns balls of silk into bobbins. But this workshop also contains this peculiar wooden roller, a real museum piece. It was invented by Leonardo da Vinci. The great man was the first to use the endless screw in a machine that he had invented. This globally unique machine was built to an original blueprint and is still used to make silk bobbins today.
Many things were created here, things which still exist today. It was a very important period. The 13th and the 14th centuries were very, very important.
As heirs to this prestigious past, Settificio's workshops uphold the traditions. Everything is made the way it was back in former times, like these magnificent silk curtain ties.
Each cord is made up of 5,800 threads. Just one cord, like this one, and you have to use the very finest silk. Curtain ties like these are very difficult to make because everything is done by hand. That's how the cords are made, entirely by hand. That's how they've always been made here at Settificio. You attach the thread here on the wall, you pull it tight, and then twist it like this to make the cord. Just watch this. Simona will show you how it's done. The ties are really important, as they have to be exactly the same color as the fabric the customer has chosen.
It takes weeks to create these beautiful items. But it takes months to embroider the brocades, Settificio's greatest treasure.
The embroideries are made from woven threads, which in turn are made from 18 silk threads. It's wonderful, one of the most beautiful things we have here. We are proud of the fact that we still make it in the way you've just seen it done on the looms. This is one of the most popular designs. It's made entirely of linen and silk.
As well as being luxurious, these cushions are incredibly intricate. This is the handloom workshop. These machines, several hundreds of years old, are still used to make brocades. The bobbins of colorful silk thread are stretched over the loom. The complex embroidered designs are created thanks to an ingenious system of perforated cards or punched cards invented in Florence at the end of the 18th century.
This is the punch card that will produce the design. A card like this represents one line of the final design. Mr. Melucci is going to show you how to work the machine. He knows everything, and without him, we couldn't do a thing.
The punched card system was invented by the Italian Vincenzi and then modernized by the French printer Joseph-Marie Jacquard. Mr. Melucci is the last remaining keeper of the secret to making these embroideries, their designs woven with the help of these punched cards. As each card represents just one line of the tapestry, this is painstaking work.
It was virtually the first time that a modern system of transmitting data from man to machine had been used, comparable to that used in computers. It all started in the world of weaving.
However, Settificio's greatest asset is its team of highly qualified workers and their wealth of traditional know-how.
Everyone who works here has a great deal of culture and historical knowledge. In order to understand how things work here, you need a lot of passion, love, and culture.
The magical, luxurious world of the Antico Settificio Fiorentino silkworks is still the stuff that dreams are made of. Still in the Oltrarno quarter, this is the splendid church of San Miniato al Monte. Its facade is an allegorical representation of the gates of heaven, paradise. From this promontory, Christ watches over the town. Just below the church is one of the oldest Christian cemeteries. It dates from the 2nd century. It's one of Europe's oldest sacred places. The marble basilica dates from the 13th century. It was built to house the holy relics of San Miniato, which are held in the crypt. Pilgrims come here to meditate before this marble coffin and remember the tragic story of one of Christianity's earliest saints. San Miniato was a heroic Armenian soldier until he was martyred in 250 AD, when he was beheaded by Roman legionaries on the banks of the river Arno. Legend has it that he then made his way to the summit of Oltrarno Hill, his head under his arm. This beautiful Byzantine-style mosaic in the apse was the first of many wonderful works adorning the basilica. Once again, we meet those famous Renaissance artists. This marble tabernacle is the Chapel of the Cross, designed by Michelangelo, a great friend of Cosimo I and the Medici's favorite architect. These illuminations represent scenes from the life of Christ, such as the Last Supper and Judas Iscariot's kiss. The 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th, 21st, 22nd, 23rd, 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th, 29th, 30th, 31st, 32nd, 33rd, 34th, 35th, 36th, 37th, 38th, 39th, 40th, 41st, 42nd, 43rd, 44th, 45th, 46th, 47th, 48th, 49th, 50th, 51st, 52nd, 53rd, 54th, 55th, 56th, 57th, 58th, 59th, 60th, 61st, 62nd, 63rd, 64th, 65th, 66th, 67th, 68th, 69th, 70th, 71st, 72nd, 73rd, 74th, 75th, 76th, 77th, 78 The walls of the basilica still feature perfectly preserved frescoes representing the life of Mary, the Mother of God. The three kings in this scene are painted to resemble members of the Medici family, notably Lorenzo the Magnificent. The imprint of the Florentine princes is even more evident in the sacristy. This is the work of the great Spinello Aretino. A disciple of the great Giotto, he is famous for his vivid frescoes, real pictorial stories representing scenes from the life of Saint Benedict. Here he pays tribute to the erudite order of Benedictine monks who lived as hermits. Theirs was a powerful order, protective of the artists beloved of the Medicis. Science was then at the service of Florence's splendor. It is symbolized by the Cathedral of Santa Maria dei Fiori and its enormous dome, Brunelleschi's Duomo. Construction of this imposing cathedral began in 1296. It took 140 years to finish it. Its dimensions are remarkable. 152 meters long, 43 meters wide, its dome reaching 114 meters into the sky. The marble tower, which stretches majestically towards the sky, is Giotto's bell tower. It is 87 meters high. Its 5 stories are covered in multicolored marble from all over Italy. Its hexagonal and diamond-shaped bas-relief represent the story of man. Agriculture, domestication, navigation, law, geometry, the great Greek philosophers, prophets. Giotto's bell tower symbolizes the crystallization of this prestigious heritage. The artist also designed the cathedral's magnificent facade. A series of niches at the top show the Holy Mother and Child and the 12 disciples. But these frescoes and statues actually date from the 19th century, as the cathedral was not completed during the lifetime of its designer, Arnolfo di Cambio. Virtually nothing remains of the original monument, as the facade was destroyed in 1587 by the terrible floods that ravaged Florence. In front of the cathedral, St. John's Baptistry is an octagonal building constructed on the site of ancient Roman ruins. Its design is Byzantine. But what makes the monument truly extraordinary is these superb bronze doors, designed by Andrea Pisano and Lorenzo Ghiberti. The gilded bronze bas-reliefs were created using wax templates, a technique perfected between the 14th and 15th centuries. They have an unparalleled richness of fine detail. But the cathedral's greatest accomplishment was still to come. By the beginning of the 15th century, work had been going on for over 100 years, but the cathedral still had no dome. In order to build the octagonal dome, the tallest and largest of its time, and without any external supports to stop it collapsing under its own weight, an architect of genius was required. His name, Filippo Brunelleschi. He was the protégé of Cosimo I of Medici. He built the dome between 1420 and 1436. He took his inspiration from the Roman Pantheon, which has virtually the same dimensions. But unlike the original, Brunelleschi's brick structure, while still maintaining the huge dome's tapered curves, did not use a wooden framework for support. To do so would have meant chopping down every tree in Tuscany. He came up with revolutionary solutions which were never to be implemented anywhere else, as he unfortunately took their secrets to his grave. Even today, the Duomo is a wonder of inexplicable technical prowess. Without any doubt, Florence is one of the most beautiful cities in the world. A unique experience, a trip back in time to the Renaissance. But this jewel of Tuscany also owes its reputation and unequaled beauty to all the craftsmen who throughout the generations dedicated their lives to the perpetuation of secular skills and to the aura of Florence, a gifted city.